Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions. Back in 2021, Max Busser of MB&F realized a longtime dream of creating a watch that was not exceptionally expensive, but was highly sought due to its exclusivity and cachet. The original M.A.D. edition, the M.A.D.2, was a timepiece built for close friends, tribe members, and collaborators of MB&F. And so, though it was not an expensive watch, it was avidly sought even by those who didn't initially qualify to buy it. Well, there were several different versions: blue, red, green. There was the Jean-Charles Castelbajac variant, and of course the M.A.D.1S, which was the first to use a Swiss movement. And in the later stages of the M.A.D.1's production life, Max decided to create one version for the tribe, which is the owners, also to be available to friends who are collaborators with the brand, and then separately have another version that would be available to the public via a raffle. And so allocations were by chance drawing. Well, what I have here is the M.A.D.2 Orange, and the orange is the tribe and the friends version of the watch, not the publicly available green dial raffle version. So technically this is the M.A.D.2 Orange by Eric Giroux. Eric is a prolific watch designer, a friend of Max Busser, a frequent collaborator on design of MB&F timepieces, and he is one of the best-known watch designers of our era. He's a little bit of a character, and years ago, I was shown a gigantic slab of chocolate in the business office of Europa Star magazine in Geneva, and there was this assumption that I would know who the figure on the chocolate slab was. And it was a picture of a dude, and they were asking me, like, don't you know who this is? I'm like, not really. And it was a chocolate representation of Eric Giroux. And so what we have here is the next step up from Eric in chocolate, because this watch sort of echoes the gigantic glasses that he wears, and he has a character, and that is a signature part of his look: the huge, heavy, black-rimmed glasses. So much, in fact, that it is the design of the dial, as well as this little almond character, that is a recurring motif across the watch, and there's a good reason for that. But if you're wondering what Eric's association with the watch is, first, the fact that the watch looks a little bit like him. He is also said to like dances, clubbing, and DJs, and so this watch has the aesthetic of a 1990s turntable, and that's much easier to recognize. In steel, you can see the timepiece is shaped like a pebble, according to MB&F, and 42 millimeters in diameter. It's 12.6 millimeters thick, 48.6 from lug to lug, and there's a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. When I put it on my wrist, it's really easy to wear. I would say you could probably wear this watch just fine on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. It is flat, flush, and sloped, so it'll slide under a cuff, and you can see it is quite animated, as it has the dial side visible winding rotor, so there's almost always something happening. It's a very dynamic watch. Take a look over the top. You can see the lugs are sort of out to the edge of my wrist, but not beyond. And then taking a look at the strap right here, I believe this is what's called Epsom leather. So Epsom leather is where you have this sort of hot stamped texture on the top, and it's conventionally calfskin. It's an anthracite color, somewhere between gray and black. It's got a little bit of volume, so it's a bit stuffed. It's got bolstering. It's got a folded edge, a monotone stitch, and then on the bottom you can see a more conventional calfskin grain. So you got the Epsom on the top to give it a little bit of texture and make it appear a bit more scaly. And then we've got the buckle, which is a twin trigger release and a single fold until you open the second fold. And so we've got this lovely and robust M.A.D. branded and Eric Giroux, I suppose you could say likeness, styled buckle. And this is a difficult thing to do because this kind of buckle is an off-the-shelf piece, and so to prevent it from looking generic, given the price point of the watch, they basically included this little character. So now, why is it here? Well, the first thing you need to know is that it has that sort of heavy-rimmed four eyes look of Eric Giroux. If the glasses are prominent, well, then you have the sort of eyes of the character prominent. But the almond-like shape is a reference to a watch that Eric designed during the 1990s. It was never made, but he called the design the almond, and it helped to inspire this watch. A more literal representation of an almond is this little character with his eyes on the crown and on the buckle. So you have Eric, but then you also have that watch that never was. You also have differential finish. As you can see, this piece is applied, and there's a satin base below it. So excellent attention to detail there, making an off-the-shelf clasp feel a lot more special. You can see that the lugs are sharply broken out from the case. In fact, they're attached to the case back rather than the mid-case, and there's a little bit of a gap between them, sort of like an Audemars Piguet Code 1159. And a combination of polish and satin helps to break up the massive metal, a dramatically cambered crystal, and then we've got this little media blast surround on the crown. The watch is a jump hour bidirectional, and so the way this works is the hour will jump, and in fact the hour can jump in either direction, but it is a true jump hour. It's not a scrolling hours display. It is a basically instantaneous jump. So when I say this is a dynamic dial, I'm referring to the visible winding rotor, but also the time display. You can see the center a little bit like a turntable, and we have the grooves of a record and the ever rotating and, let's go to the loom shot real quick, luminescent winding mass, making it a little bit like a 1990s rave or discotheque. And you can also see that the watch is entirely legible in the dark, including the time display system. So it is actually quite a lot of fun to play with, and you'll see it is loomed on both sides even if I turn it over. And it probably looks more like Eric in the dark than it does even in the day. Now, the watch also features a Swiss movement. The original M.A.D.2 did not, and then the M.A.D.2 right at the end of the line adopted a lug-to-lug caliber, and that's exactly what we have in here. You can see this one is Eric Giroux branded. It's a M.A.D. World. And taking a look at the underlying lug-to-lug caliber, you can see it's called a G101. It's got MB&F's own proprietary module on it. And so 64-hour power reserve, 24 joules, 4 hertz beat rate. The 64 hours is quite reasonable given that jump hours are power-intensive complications. It uses Edicron for most timing and beat error corrections, and eccentric screw for fine timing adjustments. And you can see the watch does not feature a seconds hand, but because the G101 does feature a hacking function, you can see that that hacking function remains intact. The decoration is cursory and mass-produced, but it's appreciated, and the fact is the watch is more exciting from the dial side, and a lot of folks will be happy to know they do have a Swiss movement in this watch. A 30-meter water-resistant timepiece, so you don't want to take it swimming or anything, but it is important to note that being steel and fairly robust, it is something you could otherwise wear on a regular basis. The orange was the Tribe and Friends edition, and so only insiders were given access to this particular version. The green dial was for the raffle. Getting a little bit closer, you can appreciate the different decorations on the dial, including frosted finish, linear graining, polished beveling, and polish, particularly if you look at these almond-shaped indices here that indicate the minute and the hour. They're nicely decorated with the satin and beveled elements. So a really cool watch on every level, and a watch whose appeal and exclusivity belies its actual price and complexity. A lot of fun to own, and sort of a, I would say, an instant delight watch that you can use to mint new watch enthusiasts when they see how it works and how it glows. It's one of those watches that can get your non-watch loving friends interested in timepieces. And I think Max would love to think of it that way, and so would Eric. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.